This month on The Spark, we sit down with 3 women focused on instigating change, personally, professionally, and socially. We'll learn more about prison stories and how creative writing and performance is making big shifts in the lives of the women in our county jail, a contract janitorial company creating innovative opportunities to employ our homeless, and a nonprofit that is uniting the community through service and supporting the independence of vulnerable seniors and families in crisis. Have you ever been excited by a new idea, inspired by watching someone lead by example? When we talk about creating change, we start by sharing the stories of everyday heroes who are making a difference in their own way, so we can learn and do the same. This truth is the power behind this show, which is focused on business and community leaders that are leading by example to give back, fuel change, and create new opportunities for the Mid-South. I'm Jeremy Park, and this is The Spark. The theme this month on The Spark is 3 women instigating change, and we're going to start with personal change. We're here with Elaine Blanchard. She's the chief storyteller, she's an author, a little bit of everything. But give us the backstory, give us where Prison Stories started, and kind of walk us through what the mission and the purpose is.
Prison Stories started 4 years ago when I went out to the county jail and said, I have a theory. If we give people a chance to be creative, they will find a way to set themselves free from what holds them back. And the people at the jail were gracious enough to let me come in. And so Prison Stories is just that, an opportunity for women in our county jail to tell their stories, to feel valued and heard.
And the part that I love is you start out by just opening yourself up. You're there with no ulterior motives. You're there to hear their stories, show them unconditional love and compassion, but really open up and build that trust. Walk us through the template that you use. There's different phases, obviously. So expand on the template that you use.
When we begin, I model for the women how it is to trust the circle, to tell my truth, and to be vulnerable. We read books, write essays, and we learn to trust each other in that circle. And out of that trust comes our truth.
And one of the big aspects is they're able to write a personal narrative. So they're self-reflecting, they're writing kind of an essay of sort, their personal story, and then you take that story and you weave it together in a culminating performance, correct?
That's right.
So give us a glimpse of some of the stories, because obviously you've heard, especially over the 4 years, you've heard a lot of different stories.
I have.
And a big part of what you're doing too, not only with the self-reflection and taking ownership, but is breaking down a lot of stereotypes, especially for the community. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But give us a glimpse at some of the storylines. Give us a glimpse of some of those personal stories that you hear.
Far too often I hear stories about girls, 12, 13, 14, getting pregnant by a neighbor, a stepfather, mother's boyfriend. Then she has this baby, so she drops out of school. She gets a job, but the job doesn't pay enough. Somebody comes along and says to her, I've got a way for you to make money, selling drugs, selling your body. And the next thing you know, I meet this neighbor, this family member, this friend in our county jail.
So let's take a look. We've got a fun feature that actually was done by the University of Memphis, their film school students and faculty, that shows not only some of the stories, but really to the process that you use. So let's take a quick look at this feature and give viewers a quick chance to see what we're talking about.
He fought me one day and took my kids and said I could never leave him again. So that day I turned to him and had to do the worst thing I never wanted to do. So I ended up stabbing him, leaving him for death. As of now, he had 1 lung.
Every one of you has a story to tell that no one else in the world can tell. If you don't tell it, it will never be heard, and that would be sad.
It's just amazing to me that someone like her actually want to hear my story. I'm in jail. Who am I? Why she want to hear my story? And it makes me feel good that she actually want to know about me and how I feel at this time of my life.
When people sit in a circle together, the differences sort of decrease and our connection increases.
You know, some people, they look at prisoners or look at inmates, they treat them differently. When Miss Lane, she comes in, she hugs you, she make you feel like someone. She lets you know that this is not your end result, that you can turn this negative situation into something positive. She gives you hope, and I'm thankful for Miss Lane.
This is a singing bowl. This bowl makes a unique tone. No other bowl makes the same tone that this one does. And when I hit it, we're going to listen until the tone is gone. We find ways to care about each other through story. My purpose is not to find the facts. My purpose is to allow the women in the circle to feel heard and valued.
If she was there more, or if my father was there more, I wouldn't have had no baby at 14. You know, I wouldn't have to raise myself, because that's what happened.
I've rarely let a good story get away.
So as we just saw, that was a little bit about the process, the storylines that you typically hear. Part of this, though, is you take all this and you put it together in a performance. There's a culminating experience inside the county jail for the women, but then also a public performance. And we'll talk about the public in just a second, but for the women, to be able to see their essay, but their life story kind of played out in front of them, it's a very powerful and moving experience for them. Talk about what you see take place.
The women who have shared their stories sit on the front row, and behind them are all the other women who are locked up in the county jail. The family members of the writers are to one side, and special guests who have come to see the inside performance are on the other side. Professional actresses perform the life stories of these writers, and they feel the impact that those stories have on all of us gathered together. We really do become one living, breathing organism together, experiencing the pain of these stories. And the writers realize how much they have to contribute to the world around them, and they become curious. If I can give like this, in this way, what else am I capable of giving to the community around me?
Well, as you alluded to, some of the stories, those are stories of almost helplessness. And what you're doing is you're giving them not only a sense of hope, but you're empowering them where they can take control and they realize, hey, wait a second, I can change that.
Yes.
Talk about the public performance.
And then the public performance is the same staged performance in a theater with a public audience. People come in to see the performance, and my goal in the public performance is that no one leaves that theater thinking, well, that could never happen to me. Because any one of us, given a different set of circumstances, can get into trouble, much like the women in Prison Stories class.
And that's where you're breaking down the stereotypes. So absolutely love what you're doing. I definitely encourage viewers to go out there and to see one of your performances, because it really is, it's life-changing for sure. So thank you very much for what you're doing, and thanks for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
In the first interview, we saw personal change, and now we're going to look at professional change. So we're here with the President and CEO of ServiceMaster by Stratos, Stacey McCall. For the sake of the conversation starter, describe ServiceMaster by Stratos.
ServiceMaster by Stratos is a contract janitorial company that services business and industry in the local marketplace.
So you guys are doing big events at the FedEx Forum, you're doing hospitals, schools, businesses. Describe, though, your list of services.
Well, we started off 30 years ago in the industrial sector, and we're still there. And then we moved into the commercial property side that we provide day porters and then also service at night. And then, as you mentioned, we have adrenaline junkies that like to do the sporting arenas,
Absolutely.
Whether it's baseball or football or our local basketball. And then we also are servicing those customers where healthcare is very important, in the healthcare and in the school arena.
And that's a big shift is technology. So using technology, and it's the nanotechnology, almost like the Ghostbusters, where you're sucking out the particulates. But describe how technology has made a big shift in your business.
It has not only provided efficiency, but it has also provided a healthier environment for our customers. We are now capturing particulates, as you mentioned, rather than just pushing them around. And then also the technology with the iPads, we're able to be more efficient. We're able to move around a customer's facility and inspect the work that we do in real time. And it's just made a difference, I believe, for us as a company and our customers.
One of the things, you work downtown now, your headquarters in the historic Lowenstein building, and one of the things, the whole reason we wanted you to come on the show and talk about this is pretty amazing, but you're giving homeless individuals downtown a chance to be employed and a chance to make a difference and to hire them to clean parks, and especially the dog park. Talk about where this started, and then also, too, just describe in your words what's going on.
Well, when we moved downtown, had an opportunity to walk Main Street an awful lot. And in doing that, we saw so many individuals that would walk up to us and say they needed a job. And it created an opportunity to hand a business card and say, come put in an application. Now, some of those individuals, though, were not eligible to work in our customers' facilities. So we were able to take some that were homeless and employ them to service the dog park that was created downtown that we volunteered to maintain, and then also supplement the city's work and Downtown Memphis Commission to provide a beautification for Court Square Park too.
So I absolutely love it. Let's take a look at this in action with a fun little feature.
I've been on the street a long time, and I don't have to worry about that no more. I've been having mine for 5 months. I was the first one that got one of the apartments.
It's been now almost 2 years. I met the boss lady. I called her the boss lady. Her name is Miss Stacy McCall, and she was passing through downtown, through here by the park, Court Square Park. And she was a blessing to us. We spoke to her one time, me and the fellas that's out there, and she just welcomed us in. I came to her one day. I said, ma'am, I said, boss lady, I'm tired of staying down there with all the fellas. She said, what you want to do about it, Tim? I said, well, ma'am, I'd like to live again. My exact words came out of my mouth. She said, well, I tell you what, right now I'm kind of busy. I got some meetings to go to. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, look, but tomorrow, this desk, I can show you the front desk and everything. And she said, this desk, this phone, and this phone book and this paper, I want you to look in there and find you a place to stay. It's been over a year and a half, so it's been almost 2 years since then that I have been blessed with my place. I'm talking about she took me from homelessness to back on my feet, stable again.
So we just saw where you are hiring homeless individuals, giving them a chance to take ownership, having them clean parks. And to me, it's a win-win all the way around, because you're giving them hope, you're giving them a job, you're giving them a chance to beautify the city, so the city wins, you win, everybody wins. Through this process, though, I know you've personally learned a lot. You've had to look at everything from how you pay to the opportunities and all the way around the system itself. What are maybe one or two things, though, that you would share as lessons you've learned?
Well, it's not going to be easy, but it's an investment in an individual, and it reaps so many benefits because you see it on a daily basis. And then our team, I believe, is better for it also. And it's just part of our culture, so it is worth the effort.
And I know that one of the individuals is a part of the Memphis 100, correct?
Yes.
Describe the Memphis 100.
The Memphis 100 is a grant that the city, through the Mayor's Initiative, has been able to capture so that we can try to take 100 of the most vulnerable homeless off the streets so that they have a roof over their head at night. And so far they've placed 40 people. Nice. And one of our employees is one of that 40, which means so much because we know that he has a place to rest at night before he comes to work the next day.
Absolutely. One of the things that you do very unique as well, and I want to talk about it definitely because MIFA is going to come on after you, but part of your give back effort is you have your team, which you pay, to go in and work with different nonprofit events and cleaning them before and after, but you don't charge obviously the nonprofit. That's a part of your give back effort. Describe that philosophy and really how it's made a difference with you and your team.
Well, in our business, a lot of our service partners are actually receiving services from these nonprofits. And so it is just not one of those situations where we can ask them to engage monetarily in the work. So we have asked the nonprofits if there's a way to give in kind. And so we have the opportunity to clean before or during or after an event, and our service partners feel like they're a part of that organization and they take pride in what they're able to provide during that event for the organizations like MIFA, like Memphis Charitable Foundation, like the American Red Cross.
So you have a very diverse workforce, which I love. What's been probably the most fulfilling when you look at already your legacy in this business and what you've created? Just what's one proud moment that you have so far?
I think it's someone walking into our organization and saying, wow, everybody seems happy.
There you go. Happiness is good.
It is.
Well, I greatly appreciate everything you're doing in the community. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Stacy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Their vision is uniting community through service. They were founded in a pivotal moment in our city's history. It's the Metropolitan Interfaith Association, better known as MIFA. I'm here with the Executive Director, Sally Hines, and I alluded to a little bit of the pivotal moment, but give us a quick glimpse at the founding of MIFA and then where we are today.
Yes, MIFA was founded in 1968 in the aftermath of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it's a true Memphis treasure. I think there's no other organization like it in Memphis and not in the country either. It was founded by a diverse group of Memphians, all faiths, all races, all ages, with the idea that we could unite the community through service. And that's still our vision today.
And it's two main areas, so supporting the independence of vulnerable senior citizens, and then also families in crisis. Give us a little bit of a glimpse of those two threads, why that's important in terms of those two focus points, and then also some of the programs that work in that area.
Right. If you came to MIFA, you would see our vision acted out on a daily basis, and that is taking care of basic needs of our neighbors. And they're things that you or I might take for granted, but they're so important. Independence of seniors, independence of families. Many of our programs have to do with keeping people in their homes. Meals on Wheels is a good example of that. Our emergency services program for families offers rent, utility, and mortgage assistance for families that can show a documented crisis, such as a job loss or an unexpected medical expense. And again, it's about a little bit of help, but help that can keep that family in their home.
Absolutely, and you have a program as well that goes in and builds wheelchair ramps for homes too, correct?
Right, and that's one of my favorites. It's called Hands on Homes, and you can just imagine the joy that a senior feels when they're able now to come and go from their home under their own steam.
And the thing that I enjoy is not only are you making a tremendous impact for the families, for the individuals, but there's also a cost savings for the community. Talk about the financial aspects.
Right. Our research has shown that our programs really are making an economic difference in our community. Our senior programs, we're able to keep seniors in their home, keep them healthy, so they avoid unnecessary hospitalization and rehab costs. Our utility assistance, our research shows that families' utilities are still on after we have given that assistance. And so that's reducing bad debt and, of course, helping all of our utility rates in the community.
Sure, absolutely. So you alluded to Meals on Wheels. Let's actually show viewers what we're talking about. So a typical day in the life of Meals on Wheels. Let's take a quick look.
Meals on Wheels is one of 5 of MIFA's programs that supports the independence of vulnerable seniors in our community. We depend on 100 volunteers daily to serve 1,800 meals. MIFA started this program over 35 years ago, and we're excited about the difference that it makes into the community.
Well, a friend of mine, Carlisle Page, was doing it, and he asked me if I'd join him in making the route, and I told him it'd be my pleasure to do so. So that must have been maybe 20 years ago, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
I enjoy going out every, once a month, seeing all the people and catching up on their lives, and you can tell they're really glad to see us. I mean, it really makes a difference that someone comes to their house every day and knocks on their door and asks how they're doing, talk about their grandkids, give them a hug. So to me, it's the least I can do.
Well, personally, I just get the pleasure of seeing people happy when we bring them food. That's what makes me happy about it.
So we just saw a day in the life of Meals on Wheels. Hundreds of volunteers, literally 100 every single day, 1,800 meals being served, which is phenomenal. But there's so much more than just the meal being served. There is a true connection, there's the showing of compassion and love, but it's not just about the meal.
Right.
So talk about that.
It really is one of the things I love about Meals on Wheels is that you really see MIFA's mission and vision acted out in this one program. The volunteers to a person will say that they get more out of delivering this meal than they think their client does. But our research shows, unfortunately, that the volunteer is very often the only person that this client might see in a day. So that's what's so important, to provide this human connection in addition to the nutritious meal.
And really, I'm glad you touched on it, because knowing some of the seniors that are getting the services, that really is, they truly look forward to that moment, that connection, having that person walk through the door. That's what brings that smile to their face. And if you ask them what's the bright spot of their day, every single time it's the volunteer coming in with Meals on Wheels. Yeah. So truly appreciate that, what you guys are doing. Talk about some of the other ways that people can volunteer. Meals on Wheels is obviously one easy way, one very powerful way to do it, but what are some other ways people can volunteer?
Right. We have several other programs that are very dependent on volunteers. One is the Hands-on Homes that you mentioned earlier, making wheelchair ramps, and that's fun because it's a group. You can do it, about 50 people can come and do that together.
Any construction requirement on that one?
We try to take care of all of that for you. Another program, Long-Term Care Ombudsman, is one of our lesser-known programs, but it's so important. We have trained volunteers who act as advocates for the residents in all of the nursing homes in our area. And then we have one teen program called COOL, College Offers Opportunities for Life, and we have mentors for each student in that program.
Nice. So looking at all that you have, what's next? What's the next step for MIFA?
Well, we know that the senior population in our area is growing, and we know that poverty is always with us. So I think it's not so much adding programs for MIFA, but we know we need to do more. The Meals on Wheels waiting list is capped at 200. We just don't add more because we know 200 is already a big number. In emergency services, we have 13,000 requests each year for financial assistance, and we're able to help about 3,000 of those people. So we know already that the need is there. We just need to do more.
Gotcha. So building capacity, obviously adding more fuel to your fire. What the last thing I want to touch on is you guys do a very good job of spreading the good news yourself, and you have an opportunity, a conduit to do that. Share a little bit about that.
I'm so glad you mentioned it. It was our Something Good in Memphis program, and it's another way to get engaged with MIFA. You can go to our website, and it's an opportunity just to recognize someone for something good they have done. It can be small, it can be big, but speak up for those good things.
Absolutely. And speaking of something good in Memphis, MIFA. So thank you, Sally, for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate all you do for the community, and obviously thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Jeremy.
If you noticed, one of the common threads this month was compassion, showing an outpouring of support for another facing a bad situation. Whether it's taking the time to go into the prisons and work with women to help them find their story and take ownership of change, finding ways to use your company to create new opportunities for the homeless, or providing a conduit to unite the community through service by supporting seniors and families in crisis, each of the organizations is lending a helping hand. Movements start with small actions, and many times it's the smallest of gestures, the lending of a helping hand, that lead to the greatest changes. Just think, as one person transforms, so too does his or her possible effect on our community. So thank you for watching The Spark. To learn more about each of the guests and to interact with your stories of others leading by example, visit thesparktv.org. We look forward to seeing you next month, and we hope that you'll join with us in creating a spark for the Mid-South.